Hey everybody, welcome to our vlog. Today we're at Bruce Mills Maple Syrup Festival. I hope you enjoy our video.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a good one. You too. Thank you so much, Mom. Yes. Thank you so
much. It's a flower gun now.
Yeah.
I'd be perfectly fine if I wasn't wearing this whatever it is.
Lovely day to walk into the wilderness.
It's not lovely. Oh yeah!
Where are we, Mommy? Gonna find out how maple syrup is made. What is this? Empty. No syrup, sap. Huh? The sap from these trees is what makes maple syrup. Did you know that? The sap from these trees make syrup.
Yeah, everyone already knew that.
See? Sap is made up of a lot of water, 99%, and a little bit of sugar. Sap harvested at the beginning of the season has the most sugar.
It definitely not doesn't show sugar.
Why? Who's squeaking? Who's squeaking? Is that you? Why are you squeaking? Sound like a mouse. Oh, you got my thing wet. Step in the mud. Step in the mud. Our sugar bush. The woodlots at Bruce Mills have been worked for maple sugar since the turn of the century. In the past, we have tapped up to 700 trees in the 12-acre woodlots. Woo!
I guess there's any maple syrup
Anything in it? There is!
Huh?
Waterproof, Cassie? Is it waterproof?
Are we having fun in the rain?
We're all white.
What we're doing here, this is the transition point between wood culture, which is the indigenous culture, and metal culture, which is the settler culture, which most of us are used to now. We just live, eat, and breathe it. It seems normal. But it's not the only thing in the world, and it's really important I to remember that. So what happened is the settlers, when they came, they brought metal tools. And they had the same needs, though, as anybody else did, which is, we got to be able to eat, we got to preserve food, because a couple hundred years ago we didn't have refrigerators, all that sort of stuff. So sugar is a preservative, okay, just like salt. And so you need to be able to make it. So how do you do it? You tap a tree. The indigenous people did it, as you know, it was a very small volume, kind of inefficient, but they weren't so worried about efficiency. Stuff was used for ceremony and things. So they would use, come on over and take a look at that little demo pot here. So what the indigenous people had is they used their stone axes, they'd make a V in the edge of the tree and then stick in this wooden thing. And I don't know if you can see, there's a hole on the top.
Yeah.
Okay, it's almost like a flute or a recorder, okay? This one's put in backwards. If we turned it around, there's actually a groove, a V channel on the other side. And so you could take the mokok, the little bark bucket, and put it on at the end, and it would fill up. It's exactly the same as what we do today, and you've seen it along here.
Yeah.
The work is done the same way. It just, now what happens is the tools change. So the European settlers, they brought tools like this thing here, this old brace and bit. This is probably, we don't know exactly, but I'm guessing that's 150 years old.
Yeah.
It still works, by the way.
Yeah.
If we dragged it out, it would still work. The fancy new version of that, $16 a Canadian Tire, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Hasn't changed at all, except they added some chrome and a little bit of fancy red paint, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay, so what you do with this is, instead of cutting the V in the tree with an axe, take this, lean it on your tree, lean on this, because I weigh a lot, and turn. That's it. And you'll notice what it knows is I'm drilling slightly uphill, just very, very slightly. Okay? And so what happens is you drill in about 7 centimeters. Okay? So you drill in about that far. But then this goes in. This is a tap or a spile. The fancy name is a spile. Okay, but most people call it a tap. And remember, does water flow up or down? Is it
Down.
water down? Okay, so I want you to remember that, because trees don't work that way. The trees are pushing water up. And it's counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense until you sort of say, hang on, how does it get up top? Well, the trees push it up. Okay, that's why when I drilled in, I tipped very slightly, because this is going to go in about 3 centimeters with a bit of a puddle behind it. Take a look on the bottom of this. There's the bottom. See the hole?
Okay. Yeah.
That's the hole. The sap goes in there, and it runs out here, out the outside, and then we just hang a bucket underneath.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so it just goes the outside, and then we just hang a bucket underneath.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so it just goes voop in that hole, and away you go. And it only goes in about 3 centimeters or so that you've got a sort of a gathering point for the sap inside in the sap wood, and you're not drilling into the heartwood of the tree, because that would really damage the tree.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. And then you guys, unos, dos, tres, you 3 characters, you get to be unpaid child labor. Yay! Well, not so yay, really. But you all get to be unpaid child labor, because your folks have gone through the woods and they've done this drilling, and they've put in the taps and they've hung the buckets. But then what they do is you got to be able to cook it. Okay? So they're busy running a fire over a very, very large metal pot, and probably along with neighbors, because pots like that are very expensive. So your family's really rich, you own one, and your neighbors own one, but you need 3. So at least 3 families have to get together. And can I get a volunteer? You? Great. Okay, just stand here and face you folks, okay? Hang on a second. Your job is to go through the woods, and you're gonna wear this.
Oh.
Whoops. You're gonna wear this on your back. On your back.
Wow.
Okay, reach up with your hands and hold it on here. Let me get the other pail. Here we go. It's hard to get good help, but you'll do. Okay. So there you go. So you're gonna walk through the woods wearing this yoke It's called a shoulder yoke.
Okay.
And you're going to take the buckets from the trees that are about like this, and you pour these into your buckets.
Yeah.
And then you walk through the forest, through the snow, to where it's hard work, it really is,
Yeah.
to where your folks are running this fire with the neighbors. Because this is your whole year's supply of sugar and preservative. It's very, very important. So
Yeah.
to where your folks are running this fire with the neighbors. Because this is your whole year's supply of sugar and preservative. It's very, very important. So if
Yeah.
you trip and you're not careful,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you're really going to get Billy O from mom and dad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take this. Okay, just come down. There you go. Anybody else want to try this?
Try maybe?
Want to try it? No? Yeah, you do? Okay. Okay, come on over and back into it.
Bessie.
Turn around. Okay. There you go.
Wow.
It's fun for the first 5 minutes.
Imagine if it's
After that,
heavy.
it's kind of like
Can you
work.
imagine if there's something inside?
Oh yeah,
It's gonna be more heavy.
this gets heavy in a hurry.
Must be hard on the shoulders, eh? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay,
man.
bye.
Yeah.
So, okay, got it. Away you go.
Nice.
So
Wow.
that's how this goes. So the other thing though that I think it's really important to remember with this is stay.
Stay.
Stay? Okay, good. It's listening to me. It's very easy to forget that the indigenous people did this for tens of thousands of years. They had a beautiful product. This is not an improvement in the product.
Yeah.
It isn't. It's just a different way. It's just a faster, more efficient way
Yeah.
of making it. But that does not make it better. It
Yeah.
really doesn't. And so as you take a look at all the rest of the displays and things down here, just remember, you're seeing a method which is efficient, it's quicker, especially today, but that doesn't make it better. You're not, like the syrup now is not better than syrup used to be 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
Same.
It's the same product,
Yeah.
okay? All we're doing is we're making it more efficiently. That's all. Thank you both for being unpaid child labor. Yeah. Okay, up to about 80 years ago, maybe 90 years ago, you would have fit right in there.
Yeah.
Yay! Yeah, not so bad. But anyway,
Awesome. Thank you so
thank you
much.
very much for coming
Thank you.
out today. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
So this is showing the early settlers when they came to Canada, how they made maple syrup. So it's the way maple syrup is made is, the process is the same, just the methods are a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
You saw how the indigenous people made it in the log.
Yeah.
Well, when the settlers came, they could bring big cast iron pots with them.
Okay.
And they hung it over the fire. The first largest pot, lowest to the fire, is where all the sap would start. So they would put all the sap into the first kettle, closest to the fire to get it going, get it evaporating. Do you guys know what evaporating means?
Yes, I'm evaporating.
Yeah, sure.
To banish the ones that are left in there.
Yeah, you got the right idea. And then the water in that liquid form becomes the vapor. It comes out into that steam that you see off the kettles, and that leaves more of the sugar behind. And then what the settlers would do, they would use ladles or cups.
Oh.
And once it's boiled for a little bit, you've seen what the sap looks like, right? So you can see it's starting to change color a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they move it over to the next kettle. So they just constantly move them. The last kettle is the one finishing kettle. It's highest off the fire. If you've ever roasted marshmallows before, when you get your marshmallow really close to the fire, what happens? It burns. And that's the same for sugar. In the natural sugar that's in the sap, it would burn as well. So they keep it a little bit higher. And the settlers actually preferred to have maple sugar instead of syrup. Sugar is easier to carry and used it for preserves. There's not a lot of salt around here. We're not near the ocean. And shipping sugar, like raw sugar from Europe, was very expensive. So the sugar was really more ideal for them than syrup.
Okay.
Yeah, of course they would keep some. As it's boiling down, they could take some out, but the sugar is really what they were after. And whose job, did I say whose job it is to bring the sap from the trees to here? Yeah.
Yes.
It's the kids. That's what they did for March break.
Yeah.
They were,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they had to bring all of their syrup, all the sap over to here. Kettles were expensive as well, so usually families would work together or neighbors would work together. Somebody would stay keeping the fire going even overnight. It was a lot of work, but
Yeah.
well worth it for what they needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions?
What's the,
Yeah.
what's the white thing in the middle?
Lard.
Oh, it's lard?
Yeah,
Okay.
so lard is nothing to do with the syrup. It's for the cast iron.
Okay.
Have you ever cooked with cast iron before? Pans?
No.
You got to grease them.
Oh, okay.
And these ones are over the heat for like 6 weeks.
Okay.
So the lard is just to keep the health of the cast iron pot.
How long?
It's like I thought it was sugar.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
maple sugar is actually kind of like a goldeny brown color. A little lighter than your hat, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little lighter than your hat. So, but that's a good question. Yeah, they just put the lard was just an added now, and it's for the health of the cast iron pots.
Okay.
But, and then, yeah, it's in traditional like modern methods. You don't need any of that.
Yeah. How long would it take to make it?
Good
everything?
question. How long do you think?
What are you?
Days?
Hours?
Days.
Days? Yeah, yeah.
2 or 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's long.
3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
But that would be your first taking some off, but the sap flows for a few weeks, so they would be doing that same process constantly. Yeah. while
So
the
you're
sap is flowing.
scooping out from that one?
And moving them over. Yes, transferring it. As it reduces and the sugar concentration becomes more, they move it over into the finishing pan.
Okay.
And then they just keep adding more sap. As that one lowers, they add more sap.
Okay.
So just keep it going until the buds open up on the trees, and then you have to stop tapping the trees.
Oh, okay.
Because the trees need that.
So you always do it in the
Spring.
spring?
It's the only time you can do it.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And you need the right climate. You have to have sunny days, warm sunny days, and cold nights.
It's perfect. This year.
Yeah, it's been, it started early. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it started early.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, maple trees, you can find them in other countries. However, you may not get the climate for tapping.
It's also for sale in our gift shop along with our dairy garden and our hamburger.
Very muddy.
A little bit. What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? 10?
10.
Perfect.
10.
10.
Really good.
That's alright, I'll take it.
Sweet.
Want to try yours? Really sweet.
Good.
Go for it.
There.
No.
Enjoying your. Are you starting your tour or ending your tour?
Ending it.
Finishing up. You're in the right location here. There.
We're the bunch of family.
There you go. What have you learned today about maple sugar, maple syrup?
Huh?
Oh, you've tried it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does maple syrup come from?
Maple tree? Maple tree.
Maple sugar or maple syrup comes from maple trees, but did you know that you can make syrup from other trees other than maple? You can make syrup from birch trees, walnut trees. It's not as sweet, not as tasty. Right? So the syrup that you buy usually will come from a maple tree. Okay? Did you guys have a peek inside the buckets?
Yes.
So some of our buckets have sap. A lot of them don't have any sap in it. Now, why would some of our buckets have no sap in it? When does sap flow? What do you need? What condition do you need for sap to flow? Did they talk about that at Tree Talk? No? You need really, really cold nights and warm days. And what have we had lately?
Yeah.
Warm nights and
Yeah.
warm days, so sap doesn't flow. Because the sap in the trees and in the ground has to freeze at night. It has to freeze. And then during the day when it's warm, it melts inside the tree. And that freezing and melting action creates pressure differences. And that's what flows sap up the tree. And as sap flows up, have a tap in there and it'll drip out. We collect that sap. Right? So unfortunately we don't have a lot of sap in our buckets today. Early in the week we had some school groups here and those buckets were full. Like within 4 hours they were filled to the top. It was flowing that fast because we had nice cold nights. Right? So we did have some sap. We did put some in here. So the sap would be poured into my warming pan here, and then I would flow some of that sap into the boiling chamber here. Okay, so it's starting to get a little bit dark, not quite yet. It's been sitting on the fire for about an hour, right? It takes about 6 hours for this to go from sap, finishing pan, until we get maple syrup. About 6 hours. Do you remember how long it took the early Europeans 200 years ago? How long did it take them to make? Yeah, about 2 to 3 days, right? And now it only takes 6 hours. A little bit quicker, huh?
Yes.
So this, and the reason that we're able to make it so fast is because I've got my fire in here. So my fire is in this stove. Okay, I've got a couple logs in there. I'm able to control the temperature much better than an open fire, right? So there's a nice hot box in here that's heating up the pans, and we're able to boil that water off very, very efficiently. Okay, so that's why it's quick to do that. Did you know that maple syrup comes in 4 different colors? So we get the golden and amber and dark and very dark. So the stuff that you can buy in the grocery stores is usually the golden or the amber. This is the stuff that the commercial maple syrup farms will be looking to produce.
Yeah.
Right? The dark and the very dark you can usually only buy at like a craft farm or maybe a farmer's market. They're a little bit harder to find. Now, why do you think there's different colors of maple syrup?
Different trees.
Could be different trees. Sometimes that the type of tree, because you can make maple syrup from sugar maples, you can make it from red maples, silver maples. There's a bunch of different maple trees that you can make maple syrup from. And that could affect the color a little bit, but that's not the answer. So the answer is that, pardon me?
Sugar?
It is something to do with the sugar. So how many buckets of maple syrup, of sap, do I need to have to make 1 bucket of maple syrup?
40?
40. You probably read the sign, right? And that is correct, right? So it's about 40 buckets of sap to make 1 bucket. So I need to have 40 of these of that sap in order to make maple syrup. 1 bucket of maple syrup. But when you collect the sap, what part of the season also affects how many buckets I need. So if you collect maple syrup at the beginning of the maple syrup season, which is around the beginning of March, right? Because the maple syrup season only lasts about 4 weeks.
Okay.
4 to 5 weeks, and that's it, right? Because remember what I said, you need freezing nights and warm days. And that condition only exists for about a month, right? At the beginning of the season, the sap has more sugar in it. So you have about 4%, maybe 5% sugar if you collect it early in the season. Later in the season, you might only have 1 or 2%. So if you have more sugar at the beginning in sap, that means that I don't have to boil as much water off. That means I have to spend less time boiling the sap. And what happens when you heat up sugar? Who likes marshmallows? Me too. Have you ever put a marshmallow on a steak on a fire?
Yeah.
What color does that marshmallow turn?
Brown.
Brown. So that process of sugar, when it's heated, turning brown, is called caramelization.
right? It caramelizes. Sugar turns a brown color when it gets hot. And it's exactly the same thing of what we're doing here. We're heating up that sap, which has sugar in it, and the sugar is turning brown. And that's what gives us a nice brown color of maple syrup. So the darker it is, it means it's been sitting on heat for longer because it has less sugar in the sap, which means that I have to heat it for a longer period of time.
Okay.
So the darker it is, it tells me when the sap was collected. Early in the season, later in the season.
What does that later season? What does this one do? What do you use that for?
Well, it has a more robust flavor, right? So generally people that have that use maple syrup on their pancakes, usually you're going to have the golden color, right? Because you just want to be able to wolf that down and sweeten that. The darker color, usually people use it for cooking, or they consume it, right? Put a teaspoon of it in their tea or coffee for its health benefits. So maple syrup has a lot of organic material, right? A lot of tree stuff. So, organic material from plants has health benefits. There's vitamins in it, minerals, right? Maple syrup specifically has manganese, magnesium, and polyphenols, which help with memory loss.
Okay.
So you'll find that a lot of older people, they still enjoy having a little bit of sugar, because you're not supposed to have a lot of sugar in your diet, right? Because sugar has a lot of health detriments, not benefits. But if you still want to consume a little bit of sugar in your diet every day, maple syrup is far more healthy for you than raw processed white sugar, okay, or cane sugar.
So do you sell those ones here? The
We do.
dark one?
It's very hard to find very dark because it takes much more energy and effort to make.
Yeah.
So you generally only find it from the craft farms.
Okay.
Right. So people do drive around to farmers markets and things like that
Yeah.
to try to find the very dark. We might have it in the store. I don't know if we're selling that here, but you can, if you're interested in trying.
Is there a name for that kind of maple syrup?
It's called very dark. So you only
Very
can.
dark.
It'll tell you the color grade.
Yeah.
It'll be either golden, amber, dark, or very dark.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're all grade A. So it's people say, what grade of maple syrup is it? Well, they're all the same grade, which is grade A. Grade A, it just only indicates how much sediment. So they have a number of other quality components. So sediment, or how clear it is, all right, determines the grade. Because you can actually, they do make grade B.
Yeah.
Grade B generally goes to the factories that use the maple syrup to make cookies or some other thing, right?
Yeah.
Because maple syrup is found in a lot of processed foods, right? Like cookies. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that, or honey glazed ham. They use maple syrup or that. So those generally are going to be the grade B maple syrup. The stuff that we buy in the store all has to be grade A,
Okay.
right?
Rip it off like this. Ah! Rip it off. Rip it off. Rip it. Rip it. Rip it. Rip it, Kendra. Come on. Put your bottle on the table there. Nice, Curtis. Rip it. Rip it. Nice. Look at Curtis.
I can't do it.
Come here.
I did it.
Both hands. Pull it apart.
I just took off.
Oh, Cassie, you dropped your earbud. Yes! Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.
Ow. Oh, traffic on it.
fall, or in
Spring.